Thank you. And let me know when the waiting room is empty.
It is.
Good. All right, then. It is 6:31, and I will call to order this meeting of the Manchester Conservation Commission on June 30, 2026, in the rain. Our mission here is to protect the wetland resources and to serve our neighbors. And I see that many of our neighbors are attending. Wonderful. A couple of things before we get going. This meeting is being held entirely virtually with under ongoing regulations and rules from the state, which means that we will be recording on Zoom, and that will include your image if you have your camera turned on. That's up to you for each person. It also means that on Zoom we have a chat function, but please reserve that function for technical questions because anything substantive would not become part of the permanent record, which we'd like to keep. So chat just for technical problems. Tonight we will conduct all of our votes by roll call. And we will have a portion of each hearing when public comment and questions are invited. I will let you know when that is. And I will ask you to raise your hand physically or virtually using the Zoom controls to let me know that you'd like to speak. Then once you're recognized, please tell us who you are and where you live or what your professional affiliation is, if that's the case. And try to limit your questions or comments to 2 minutes. Those comments and questions should be addressed to me. We don't want to start debates back and forth among the audience. I think that might be all the ground rules. I will point out, as many of you probably know, that tonight we are opening a hearing for a significant project on Shingle Hill. The NOI will open as the 5th agenda item among the permit applications we have. So for those of you who are here specifically to listen in and maybe comment on that, please be patient while we attend to other NOIs and RDAs that have come in. All right. I'd also encourage you, if you are using a kind of anonymous name like iPhone user paren57, close paren, to tell us your name. It makes it easier to compile minutes and other things. Thank you. Let me call the roll of commissioners and staff, and then we'll get going. First of all, Mr. David Lumsden.
Here.
Dr. Gordon Turner. Muted. Bethany, can you unmute Jim and Gordon, please?
Sorry.
That's all right. We're not picking on you guys. We really want to hear what you have to say.
Great. Thank you. Here.
Yes. Mr. Jim Hoffman.
Here. Thank you.
Dr. Henry Ottinger.
Here.
And our 2 new members of the Conservation Commission, Arnold Oyola.
Here.
And Marty Farmer.
Here.
Great. So welcome particularly to Arnold and Marty. And I'm probably going to say this several times tonight, but we honor and appreciate all the work that Dr. Olga Hayes did over literally decades of work on the Conservation Commission. Last meeting was her final meeting, and she promises she's not in full retirement, but she's remaining on several other town boards and commissions, as is her habit. But we will miss her. All right, let's get, staff. We have our Conservation Administrator, Bethany Barstow. And the list is kind of long here, but I suspect that now or soon we will have also Mark Resnick, our Director of Land Management. So welcome to you, as well as other town officials or board or commission members who may be in attendance. We start by opening our public hearings and turning to our first notice of intent, which is for 18 Boardman from Fred Morris, Mass DEP number 39-947. These are proposed improvements to an existing seawall within land subject to coastal storm flowage, coastal bank, coastal beach, etc. This is a continued hearing. We have talked about this several times, and we've had a site visit, and we've also received significantly revised plans along with an alternatives analysis. So is there someone here tonight who wants to summarize the current state of that proposal for 18 Boardman?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you to each of you. And thank you each and all for your public service. This unique system of conservation commissions in Massachusetts could not function without your community concerns and service. You are familiar with this matter. You are not familiar with me. So I'll give you a brief moment of, hopefully not too boring, but very brief. I am Jamie Buchanan Medea. Bethany has that in her minutes. I'm a specialist attorney from my firm, Buchanan Associates. After 40 years in environmental permitting, such as the Wetlands Protection Act, bylaws, Chapter 91, I was Governor Wells' general counsel for environmental affairs, so thank you for your payment of taxes back then. You paid me. My experience started then with climate adaptation and resiliency measures, and we're not done, big surprise. And of course, the new Coastal Zone Management Handbook. I am on this team because your questions from viewing the past hearings evidence that perhaps I can answer any questions which may still come up both within the Wetlands Protection Act and bylaw jurisdiction, and some of you had questions that were not within your jurisdiction, such as Chapter 91 licensing. Perhaps I can address them as need be. This proposal now respects the substance and the intent of the Coastal Zone Management Handbook, the Commonwealth's priority on privately funding climate adaptation, which is what this proposed additional seawall leveling is. It is not a new seawall, please. That's the most important thing for people who don't know the project. It is not a new seawall. This is adding 1 foot now to the above of the seawall. It's a unique location where sea level is already rising clearly, as evidenced by some areas of erosion of the fill, which is already behind the seawall and has been for many, many, many decades, along with the seawall, which presumably is there for that very reason. In any case, this is uniquely an area where ocean dynamics carry no impacts to abutting properties, which I believe you observed on your site visit, due to the shape of the water area. It's a very old yet well-constructed seawall with existing land behind it, and there's an existing septic system, which I don't believe you were aware of in the past, and it's now on the plans. These existing areas of erosion, are already occurring. At your request, alternatives have now been analyzed by, if I do say so, highly respected technical professionals, not me, not a lawyer, technical professionals. And in addition to those alternatives that you will about to hear about from DeRosa Consulting, the plans and proposal have been revised to add not 2 feet, but 1 foot, and removed any proposed additional fill, show the location of the septic system. And the result is, in my opinion, and I think you'll find as a matter of fact, least impact to the resource areas, and in fact, most protective of the resource areas to prevent further erosion into those resource areas and the worst case scenario of septic system impacts into the resource areas. I'm going to turn this over to the slides to be done by the very capable Jordan Folds, and I'm turning off my sound. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks for that. Very helpful.
Thank you, Attorney Medea. My name is Jordan Folds with DeRosa Environmental, and I prepared a short PowerPoint to discuss the changes to the plans and also the alternative analysis. So I will share my screen. Everyone see my screen?
Yes. It's up and visible,
Yes.
Jordan.
Okay, great. So the updated plan changes include the proposed height increase from 1 foot. It was originally 2 feet. Additionally, there's no longer proposed fill behind the existing seawall, and the proposed tree wells have been removed from the plan. The wall details have been modified accordingly, as well as the cross sections, and the existing septic system location has been added to the plan. Can you see my slides changing?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know.
There you go.
There we go.
Skipped one, but there you go.
Okay. So these are the topics I just explained. So the 1 foot height has been changed, the 2 foot height has been changed to 1 foot. The proposed fill has been removed, as well as the proposed tree wells have been removed. The wall details have been modified, the cross sections have been modified, and the existing septic system location has been added to the plan. And then I can zoom in on the plan. As you can see, we've added the septic system and leaching field in the back over here, adjacent to the existing building in the back, as well as we've removed the tree wells and the proposed fill. And as you can see, the cross sections have been updated. We have 4 alternatives. The first alternative is the underground drainage adjacent to the seawall. One of the commissioners had mentioned this in our previous meeting, and so we made that one of our alternatives. This would significantly increase the amount of disturbance to approximately 5,000 square feet or more, and this would be a significantly higher cost at around 3 times the proposed project. Additionally, this would result in a longer construction schedule. The second alternative, raising the seawall 2 feet and proposing fill behind the seawall, was the originally proposed project, and this would result in greater impact than the proposed project due to the fill. Additionally, this would result in approximately $230,000 higher than the proposed project. The third alternative is core logs behind the seawall and proposed fill behind the core logs. This would be a poor long-term solution for sea level rise due to the frequent replacement of the core logs, and it would result in significantly larger disturbance of approximately 5,000 square feet or more. The fourth alternative is no proposed work, which would ultimately reduce the costs in the short term, but could result in significant long-term costs with rising sea levels. This could result in long-term property damage to the single-family home and does not achieve the project's goal of climate resiliency. This could result in unquantifiable impacts to the resource areas caused by the erosion of the historic fill and result in unmitigated risk to the septic system and consequential impact to the resource areas. We've included some images of the storm surge. As you can see, it goes against 18 Boardman and it does not deflect into the neighboring properties. And then we've included some similar approved seawall projects in the town of Manchester that are significantly more impact than the current proposed project. And we will take any questions.
Thank you, Jordan. Are there questions from the commission?
I have a question, Steve.
Fire away.
Thanks. I appreciate the alternative analysis. Thank you for submitting that. You've noted the location of the septic system on the plans, and I seem to recall from our site visit, and it also looks like from the elevation, that these are quite a bit higher than the existing bank. So I was just wondering if you could comment on what you think the impact would be to the septic system.
Are you asking about the impact with or without the addition of the 1 foot?
Without any addition. Yeah. I mean, there seems to be.
I'm going to answer only, and then of course Jordan can answer also. The problem with estimating an impact with sea surge is we really don't know how much overtopping there will be and when without the addition, even using the Commonwealth's own projections, which is what we have here. I'm sure other people like you have seen it in your own experience. Once erosion begins, it can be very sudden, that it goes much further in because it's like got a foothold in there and it goes further in. So the impact could be everything, or it could be nothing, and don't know when.
Okay. And maybe just for reference, what is the height difference between the current seawall and the location of the septic area?
Oh, I'll have to let a technical person see if they know the answer to that. I do not. It is on the plans, but I do not know.
Yeah.
My apologies.
I'm just looking at the plans
Right.
now. I can pull them up. So it looks
Bethany, you didn't happen to look at that, did you? While Jordan's looking, just in case you happen to know.
so
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm not supposed to speak to her without you. My apologies.
We'll wait for Jordan. That's fine.
so the existing seawall currently is around 12 feet and the septic system is about 16, 17 feet.
Okay. That's what it was looking like. Okay. Thank you. So quite a difference in elevation. Thank you.
And may I ask Jordan if, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, Jordan, was that to the reserve area or just the core of the septic system, so to speak?
That would be to the existing leaching facility.
And what about the reserve area?
The reserve area is about the same elevation.
Okay, thank you.
And just as a follow-up, Jordan, what's the age of this septic system?
Let me see if it's on the plans.
Fred can answer. Mr. Morris.
You have to unmute Mr. Morris, please.
We built the house and the septic system was put in 1991.
Okay. So about 35, 37, 35 years.
Okay.
So it's
And-
not a cesspool, but it's not brand new.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Steve, can I ask a follow-up question?
Yes, please do.
So would it have been reasonable to include an alternative analysis on, relocation of the septic? Just, I'm guessing there's site restrictions and things like that that would prevent that, but there was nothing.
No, sir.
Jordan, I can answer that because
Fred,
we went through you might guess in building a house, a thorough analysis of
Yeah.
where there would be enough drainage, and that's the only place on the property that
Okay.
met that criterion.
Thank you.
Yeah, not surprising. Other questions or comments from the commission?
If I may ask a few questions.
Fire away, Arnold.
So, well, understanding that, the current proposal is adding a foot to the wall, which is still below the AE level, per se, but covering it right, in addition to the height. And if we don't know when things could happen and erosion can occur, what consideration, other than cost, do we take to preventive measures like the core logs instead as a better way to, when the water does stop over, when it does happen, that it could actually prevent the erosion better than just a 1 foot extension?
We
as
would
well?
have preferred, oh, thank you for your question, sir. And welcome to the commission and the public service of this particular type. Very unique. So we had preferred 2 feet of additional to be even more protective. The 1 foot seemed to be a more acceptable, I'll call it a compromise alternative. And the problem with the coir logs is, as Jordan has said, is first of all, they're not really logs. They're kind of rolls of material that disintegrate in the face of seawater impacts, and they just require replacement, further disturbing. And they thwack, technical term, 310 CMR 10, thwack. So they don't do the job. So does that answer your question, or did you want more?
I think it answers. I understand that they require replacement. It's just in the face of a surge, does it provide a short-term prevention of erosion beyond what assuming that the water level does go over the 1 foot or 2 foot level, which is still below the AE level of 14 feet.
Respectfully, for 30 seconds. It's a Jordan, do you step in if I misstate something? Because she's the technical specialist, but I've seen this on many, many sites. It feels good, nature-based, but it's not. It's not nature-based, and it has an impact that's almost worse than the cure.
But also, just speak up quickly here. We've been here since 91, and there's been no ocean that would have exceeded a 1 foot extension of the wall. And I had requested 2 because I'm looking at the global warming impact of rising water, so I thought 2 feet would make sense. 1 foot does the job for the foreseeable future.
Mhm.
And you can see you have seen those who've been at the site. The erosion is very minimal when we do have the water coming over the top. This is to stop that.
Mhm. This is kind of a fine point, but I'll make it anyway, which is that part of the concern expressed by DEP was that the coastal bank, which extends landward from the seawall, technically, that it continued to provide sediment for beach nourishment. It's one of its major functions. That seems a little obscure given the exact practical situation we have here of a wall and heavily vegetated front lawn and whatnot. But that's another reason in the balance that weighs against core logs. Anything else? Jim, did I see you or Henry with a question? No. Anyone in the public have a question? Sorry?
Everyone.
David.
David.
Fine.
Jordan, I just want to compliment you on your alternative analysis chart. I am very pleased with this. This is the first time I think anyone's provided us with a chart of 4 alternative analysis when we asked for 1. And you not only provided the alternatives, you provided what the consequences would have been for each of those 4. It makes our selection and our choice and our decision making a whole lot easier. So thank you very much for putting that together.
I'm glad it's helpful.
Yeah, I'll second that. We've been on a long-term crusade to get more usable alternatives analysis as opposed to we can either do this or we cannot do it, which is what we typically get. And this tape really advances the art. If you get a chance to do another one, it'd be great to see a little more about the impact on wetland resources of different types that we have here, beach and storm flowage land and bank itself, in addition to all the practical elements of timing and cost and et cetera. But it's a great start.
And just quickly, in terms of the beach, the seawall was built in 1895, and the beach appears to be exactly where it was in 1895. So it seems to be very stable.
That in
Excellent.
itself is remarkable.
Yes, a testimony to the location and the tide action and wave action. Anyone in the public have a question or comment on 18 Boardman? Let's let this go for a second because there's a lot of names on this list. I see no hands raised.
See anybody?
Seeing none, Steve, I'm gonna move that we close the hearing on 0390947, 18 Board
Excellent.
Ave.
Is there a second? All those in favor of closing the hearing? Henry?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
And David?
Aye.
I'm afraid I don't think our new members can vote on this, having not attended the opening of the hearing.
Yes.
So it is unanimous and reflects a quorum plus. Excellent. Then let's turn our attention to the draft order of conditions, which Bethany has
Yeah,
prepared for us.
I'll
And
screen share.
thank you. Just for members who don't come to every people from the public who don't come to every meeting, after we conduct our hearing and collect enough information, once we are satisfied that the information is sufficient to make a decision, then we move to issue an order of conditions, and we're determining what that will contain. Okay, it begins with findings, as always. So we identify what's at stake in terms of issues and interests, and then We have some specific findings, and the blue is edits I made just for clarity, but I'd invite anybody on the commission to suggest alternatives. Finding 3 is that the commission finds that raising the seawall by 1 foot will not cut the ocean off from its floodplain, since the 100-year flood level remains above the finished height of the seawall. 4 is that the commission approves this project based on applicant's affirmation that the proposed height of the seawall will not cause erosion of the coastal beach due to the increase of wave reflection and refraction. And that's reflects long-term residence and even longer-term presence of the wall there. And 5 is that the commission finds that the applicant demonstrated that raising the height of the seawall does not displace flood flows or adversely affect adjacent resource areas, such as the coastal bank, coastal beach, and adjacent properties. Those sound okay to the commission?
Yes.
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 Then have a whole series of general conditions, which are, forgive the phrase, boilerplate. And I'm not sure we need to go through any of those. And pre-construction conditions and construction period conditions. Post-construction, and then to the meat of the matter is where we put in any special and or perpetual conditions. So let me read these aloud, just good practice. First special condition 28, use of toxic substances for lawn and garden maintenance presents a hazard to groundwater and resource areas. Due to this site's proximity to wetland resources and its likelihood to flood, use of pesticides and herbicides is therefore permanently prohibited. Only organic, slow-release fertilizer shall be used on site and only outside the wetland resources, the 30-foot no-disturb buffer zone and the 50-foot no-build buffer zone to wetland resources. With the exception of the minimum amount of organic material required to establish the mitigation plantings, of which I don't believe there are any. Fertilizers shall not contain pesticides or herbicides, shall only contain slow-release nitrogen, and shall not contain more than 3% of phosphorus. To mitigate runoff, do not fertilize immediately preceding a rainstorm and use fertilizer sparingly. The applicant shall assume the responsibility of informing any landscaping or gardening contractors working on the property of this requirement. Suggestions or questions about that, commissioners?
No.
29, the use of de-icing chemicals such as sodium chloride, potassium chloride, or any other chemicals is to be limited to the smallest amount necessary to maintain public safety. I'm not sure you're going to be treating any part that's jurisdictional for us in this site.
No.
So that one is there. That's like belt and suspenders and one hand on our trousers. 30 is any hazardous materials such as gasoline lubricant shall be stored securely above the FEMA flood levels and as far as possible from the wetland resources. And this, I think, is pertinent only because there is an old kind of ground level or maybe even root cellar type structure right there in the front lawn.
Yeah. That has none of that stuff is in there.
Good, that makes sense. 31, prior to issuance of a certificate of compliance upon the sale of the property to subsequent owners, each new owner shall provide a letter to the commission acknowledging that he/she understands the wetland restrictions bound to this property. Copy of this letter shall accompany the written request for a certificate of compliance. This shall be an ongoing condition and shall be recorded in the deed and on subsequent deeds. And 32 says there shall be no additional alterations of jurisdictional buffers and resource areas without express permission from the commission through an RDA or NOI application. And the following section stipulates that those conditions 28 through 32 are deemed perpetual. So they do not end with completion of the project. They run with the property and the deed. Commission, any comments or ready to vote?
Ready to vote.
I'll hear a motion.
All right. Move for 0390947 18 Boardman. Yeah, we've closed the hearing.
We have.
Yes.
We're ready to vote on the order of conditions.
And vote on the order of conditions as read.
Good. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Jim,
Aye.
David,
David's muted.
is David muted? We'll come back to you. Henry,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
David. Wish I could see you if you're violently waving your hands in opposition or approval.
Perhaps if you stop screen sharing, you'll see his face.
That's
Yeah.
possible.
Just give me a second, please.
It's also possible that David, who has 7 or 8 or 9 grandchildren in his house at the moment, is slightly distracted.
Ice cream. Give them ice cream.
Works for me.
He's not showing his like face. He's here, but
Please, David.
oh, he's here.
I'm sorry. We're having,
That's all right. We
with the
have a
house full
motion
of
to
guests,
approve.
they left all the windows open and I had to close a few. Otherwise,
Yeah,
we'd
it's
have a
at
torrential
the
problem.
moment. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I'm
I
grateful
can't
you did because I'm a little further north than you in Rockport, and I will close my skylight.
Yeah,
no.
it's
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 not raining
pouring.
yet.
a thousand.
Thank you.
So we're waiting for you if you want to say
The
aye.
motion is to approve the order of conditions as read with special and perpetual conditions.
I approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that is unanimous. Thank you, Arnold and Marty, for participating without voting. And thank you, Jamie and Jordan and Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
Allow me, on behalf of the team, to thank all of you again for your public service. And personally, I want to thank Bethany and all of you for your professionalism. I go to a lot of conservation commissions, and this has been an exceptionally well-run meeting and an exceptionally clear order of conditions. Thank you.
Sure.
Good
Thank you
night
for
and
that.
best wishes for independence. Thank you.
Yes. And keep cool, please. Next, we take up an RDA from Tide Keepers Foundation, Elisa Vanelli, which is in Reed Park in downtown. This is for a proposed sculpture which will be temporarily displayed within Reed Park on an above-ground natural granite base located within existing maintained lawn area. And that temporary status is because it's awaiting approval as placement in the harbor so that tide, we can watch the tide cover and uncover parts of it. Are you here tonight, Elisa, or someone else represent? Oh, there you are. Let's see if we can get you a live mic. Can you unmute Elisa, please?
Lisa, you're muted, I believe.
Sorry.
There-
Hi, everyone. Thank you for
Hi.
having me. I'm very happy to be here. And I was here 1 year ago to propose the Manchester Mermaid, the first Tide Interactive mermaid of the world. And we were hoping to be able to put her in the water right away. But since it's we're basically creating the blueprint for this new type of educational sculpture that aims to recreate a connection with the ocean and nature, we discovered that we need a Chapter 91. So while we're working towards getting the permit, we would love for the town to be able to start connecting with the sculpture. She's actually she's at the founder now. She will be ready by the end of July. And we were aiming for an unveil of Atlantis during the Festival by the Sea, August 1st. We would love to do a ribbon cutting ceremony with the Cape and Chamber. So I'm here tonight to see if we could place her in Reed Park while waiting for the Chapter 91.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there
Thank you.
questions or comments from the commission?
I do have a
Steve,
comment.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Henry.
So my concern is I'm not sure that Reed Park is the ideal location in Manchester. And one of the reasons I say that is that due to some upcoming work for the docks, there's some trenching that's going to be done in Reed Park, which is fairly small to begin with. And my concern is that could potentially interfere with the trenching. Secondarily, if we approve that, I would want to condition a time frame for that, a maximum time frame, because I can see that ending up potentially in Reed Park for a very long time. And it wouldn't be able to benefit that connection and educational benefit, I think. So, but are there, Eliza, alternatives that you had considered?
What I spoke, basically this project, the person that has been like supporting me the most in town and working towards this has been like John Round, and the Arbor Master Bion too has been working with me on this a lot, and is working with me on the Chapter 91 with Susan St. Pierre. And Reed Park seemed like the best location for because it's close to the permanent location, and it's a place where the community gathers. So we're currently working with the DEP. So we already started the process. We had our preliminary interview, and they gave us a timeline from when we have everything ready of 6 months per se for the Chapter 91. We're not there having everything ready because we obviously need to prepare some more paperwork. But the goal is really not, they love the project. So it seems like we had a positive feedback from the DEP, and the Bion was present at the meeting too. So the goal is really to just have her there now for the people to start connecting with her, and also like this would bring us some support too, because as I said, this is a gift for the town. So I opened this nonprofit, and I just donated my time, my art, and everything to just gift this to the community. So we count on everyone's help, to make this this beautiful project come to reality. So yeah, so having her there, I think that is going to for sure help us towards that too, because it's not a vision anymore. It's something that people can actually see, relate
to put a point on it, if you could, Eliza, if you couldn't put it right in Reed Park, which is a lovely spot because there's a lot of traffic walking to and from the town dock, but if you couldn't put it there because there's going to be construction vehicles and trenching and utilities going in, have you thought about a site, or would you think about a site in Masconomo Park, which is the larger space that has a playfield and a bandstand, and it's actually would be conceivably very close to where its ultimate home would be, just offshore there. So there's some plausible sites there as well. But what's your opinion of that?
When we were thinking about this, we had a meeting with Tony too and everyone, and that was another option, but everyone thought that Reed Park was the best location for now. So that's why we went for Reed Park.
Okay, well, if we were to say yes to Reed Park, it would be on the condition that the timing and placement be such that it doesn't interfere with the already established construction sequence for the utility trenches going out to the dock. And Henry, you're more of an authority on those than any of us here. But
what is the timeline for that? Do we know?
You're muted. Yep,
I believe the end of 2026 or 2027 is the timeline for that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so they could overlap, is what we're saying, if this went in the next month or two. and remain for 6 months or more. Yeah. So
So
we,
that
somebody needs to look at the exact location of the trenching and where they're going to need to stage materials and equipment for that little project.
okay. I
Other
wasn't
questions?
aware of this. No one has brought this up to me, so that's why this comes as a,
Understood. I think maybe Mark, I see your hand is up. Can you throw some light on this?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. So the trenching is gonna run from basically from the street down the path directly to where the dock is. There'll be no utilities to the left or right, which are kind of the main areas. I'm not sure where this is going, whether it's on the left side or the right side, but I'm sure it's not going anywhere near the path down the middle. The other point I just want to point out is that Bion is the one organizing and managing the dock construction. So if he felt there was be an issue of a complication, whether he moves forward with his dock quicker while the installation's still there, or the other way around, the installation has to remain longer because of complications with the permitting. I'm sure he's considered that, and its location shouldn't be an issue during construction. I mean, it's just a simple utility trenches that's being run down there. So I can't see it being a major construction or hindrance to construction.
That's reassuring. Thank you. Gordon?
I guess my questions had to do with similar topics, but I guess how do we condition this appropriately so that the right town officials are consulted? And Mark, you seem to indicate Bion is the main person, but does DPW have a role in that trenching project? And should we sort of
I'm not sure who's the lead on the construction on this. Bion manages a lot of his projects directly, with consultation with Public Works. So but I'm not entirely sure on this. So
okay. And then just Eliza, one of the things you had mentioned was, unveiling this during the Festival by the Sea. That was actually my first question when I was reading the proposal, because I forgot about all the trenching. Thank you, Henry. But what does that do to the festival? Are those coordinators aware of this? Because they usually have a lot of booths and tables set up in that small park. Again, is this going to block any of that activity?
So since the ribbon cutting is happening and it's the chamber that is organizing it, the chamber is also the organizer of the Festival by the Sea. So I am coordinating with Colleen, which is the person that directs this, the festival. And I was actually there at the location last week or 2 weeks ago to show her where it is. And it's actually not a place where they normally put any booths. So the location works perfectly. It's on the left of the path under the tree where there's like the little bench. So, and Bion has been following the project with me. So I'm sure that if there was any concerns from his part, he would have, voiced them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions from the commission? Anyone? I have one. Jim.
Oh, sorry,
Go
just
ahead.
one quick question. In the materials, there's two pictures, and one of them has lights. Are you going to run electricity to this site, and is that just is that an essential element? Because we generally have some concern about lights near the shoreline, and obviously there won't be lights once it's the piece is in the water.
So no, that is a rendering, and it could even be like a little solar powered light that is placed in the ground and works with the sun and or not, but that is an option. I just wanted to, it's an AI creation. So obviously, the sculpture is now being transformed in bronze. She's now in wax, so she will be more beautiful than what you see in that picture. And I just wanted to show day and night, basically. It would be nice to have a little solar light pointing at her. So if you guys are okay with it, we might put it, but it's not a requirement.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I wish we could show the audience what those renderings look like, because they're impressive. But I'm not sure we can share that picture. But I do have one other question, and I hope this isn't terribly impolite, but I noticed when I was last in the Legion for a Manchester Club dinner that you have a fundraising slide on their screen that comes and goes. Have you secured the funds you need to finish the project and put her at sea?
So basically, we are now at the point of securing the funds for where we're at now. So we will have the money to go to the foundry at the end of the month, pay the $30,000, which we already paid like 3/4 of it, of the bronze casting, because it's not cheap. And then we are still raising money for today I had like the marine engineer giving me an estimate of what it's going to be. We actually feel like we're supported by both individuals, and I'm in contact, and then we had corporates too that helped us. So I think that we will be doing great. It's a beautiful project, and I think that the whole community is going to benefit from it. And so I think that we will be able to, as of now, we were able to stay in our timeline and achieve our goals. So I see that this is going to keep happening. As of now, we don't have all the funds for it, but we will.
Yep. And I assume putting it in public view, particularly this summer, will help spur that process. At least I hope it does.
Hopefully. I think that everyone is going to fall in love with her.
And does she have a name?
Yes, it's Atlantis, because she's going to be on the Atlantic Ocean, and she's going to be covered by the waters and uncovered like the sunken city of Atlantis. Atlantis is the tide keeper.
The tide keeper. Excellent. Anybody in the public have a question or comment about Atlantis for Eliza? Not seeing any. Yeah. So commission ready to vote on this?
I'll make a motion.
Wait,
We-
Hang on.
a
We have a
public,
comment from Gar Morse. Speak up, Mr. Morse.
Yes, I just have a question for the commission and for Steve, and that is there precedence for this? Have we ever done this before? And have we ever, from a Conservation Commission standpoint, confronted the implications of this?
The nearest thing I can think of, and maybe other commissioners can elaborate, but the nearest thing I can think of are those wonderful longevity benches, which require a substantial concrete platform, larger, I think, than Atlantis will need, and are permanent, not temporary. So we when those are in wetlands jurisdiction, they come before us, and we've probably reviewed, I don't know, easily 3 or 4 of those, if I remember correctly. Anybody else think of a precedent?
No.
No. Yeah, we don't have a lot of public sculpture in Manchester that I'm aware of.
I think that our role here is pretty limited. I think the harbor master has a much bigger task in making sure that it doesn't interfere with navigation when all are partially submerged. But that's not our committee.
Yeah. Jim, you're talking about luring seamen to their untimely fate.
I was just thinking about boats, Steve.
Yeah, we'll leave it with
Siren.
We'll leave it with Bion. All right, yes, go ahead.
I wanted to say that Bion said that it's going to be not an hazard for the navigation, but it's going to be an aid for the navigation. This is how he presented this with the DEP.
I think it's accurate if I remember where he was recommending you place it.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, commission, ready to vote. We need a motion that has, I think, two conditions in it. One, that this be placed in a way that doesn't interfere with that trenching, which sounds like it's quite feasible, but we just need to make sure it happens. And second, that we have a duration of, I don't know, 9 months, 12 months, something like that. Not to say you couldn't remain past that, but it's a trigger point for you to come back to us so that we get a chance to look at it rather than having it kind of linger on and on.
Of course. Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion with those parameters?
Sure.
I'll make the motion that we
Go ahead,
approve
David.
that we approve Eliza's proposal under the condition and under the supervision of the harbor master, the select board, and the DPW, that it first of all doesn't interfere with the conduit pipe that's going to be put in within the next 6 or 8 months, and that the project come before us again in 12 months' time if you need additional time.
Thank
David, can I
Good.
add to your list of organizations and just add DEP because of the Chapter 91 requirement?
Certainly.
And I think you have to do like you have to issue a negative determination.
-2
This will
and
be a
3.
negative
Negative
3, I think.
3 and 6.
3.
Good. That sounds like a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Marty?
Oh, I can vote on this one. Yes. Aye.
Thank you. Arnold?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Gordon?
He's mesmerized.
Might
He's
be
muted.
muted,
Uh-oh.
Gordon.
You're muted.
Sorry. Aye. Yeah.
Thank you. Henry?
Aye.
And the chair is an aye as well. It's unanimous. Thank you, Eliza.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Good luck with it. We look forward to seeing it meeting Atlantis.
Of course. So I will see you all August 1st at 11 a.m. in Reed Park for the ribbon cutting ceremony. Fingers crossed.
Excellent. We
Thank
now
you.
take up the notice of intent for 19 Proctor Street from David Taliaferro, Mass DEP 39-950. This is a proposed installation of a seasonal ramp and float at a single-family home. And the resource involved is Coastal Bank and marsh, or it isn't specified here, salt marsh, I think. Yes, tidal flat and salt marsh. So is there someone here tonight to summarize this for us?
Yes, I'm back again. Jordan Folds with DeRosa Environmental, representing the homeowners David and Mona Taliaferro at 19 Proctor Street. And I will share my screen so you guys can see the plans. So the applicant is proposing the installation of a seasonal ramp and float at a single-family home. The only permanent part of this structure is the granite block that's going to be 2 by 4 feet. 2 by 4 feet, approximately 8 square feet, anchored to the shoreline. And this granite block will be brought in by boat or barge at high tide due to the challenging upland location. It is going to be as close to the water as possible, and it will be installed by hand. There is a proposed aluminum ramp that is 60 feet by 3 feet with through flow decking and railings attached to a proposed wooden float that is 10 by 20 feet with 4 helical anchors and six standoffs to maintain a 32-inch clearance from the mudflat. As mentioned, Coastal Bank and land containing shellfish will be impacted by 1.5 square feet, and that is due to the 6 standoffs below the wooden float. And again, these are temporary impacts because this is only a seasonal float. The total impact to land subject to coastal storm flowage is 388 square feet, which is the entire float. And it is located in this area because that is the deepest portion of water in this area due to the tides. And there has been no comments from the Division of Marine Fisheries, and there is proposed cleanup of coastal debris as part of this project. And I will take any questions.
Good. Bethany, have we heard from DMF?
EMF?
Yeah, Marine Fisheries.
Yes, I include a screen snip of their comment in the packet. I can pull it up real quick.
You can just read it too. That's
I
okay.
have it in front of me.
Fire away.
Massachusetts DMF has reviewed the NOI application by David Teofaro for the proposed installation of a seasonal ramp and float at 19 Proctor Street. We have no resource concerns with this project, as the float will be kept a minimum of 32 inches off the mud flat, and the ramp will be constructed with through-flow decking. Sincerely, Iris Cito, Environmental Analyst with Mass Division of Marine Fisheries.
That's helpful. Are there questions or comments from the commission? Jim?
I have a question.
Yeah, couple questions. One, I don't know whether this had to go before zoning, but it seems like the float is very close to that extension of the lot line. And I only mention that because, you know, the extent that everybody wanted to put a floating thing in front of their house, it could really be very close to a neighbor's. Is there any requirement that you maintain the normal distance from a lot line in this situation?
Not that I know of. I know we didn't have to go before zoning, and it is temporary, so it's not a permanent structure, and zoning doesn't usually regulate temporary structures, I believe.
Well, I mean, you say it's temporary, which is true, but you are drilling into the into the mud to create base for the floats. So that area, it's a mud flat at low tide. So is there going to be a boat that's sitting in the mud? Twice a day?
So I believe they have like the small boat, the dinghy that goes to this ramp and float, and their larger boat is in the harbor.
Okay. And then if something like this, detached in a storm and that very long, metal ramp were to start, gouging along the beach and create a problem, how do we resolve that? Do we get to if it turns out that system doesn't work very well, is this a permanent thing where we just have to?
Usually, Jim, usually we include conditions that for a suitably significant storm event, that it be removed before the event.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which we can do in this case. Anybody else, Arnold?
Just in the off season, what are the plans or considerations for removal and storage such that it minimizes impact to the tidal flat? Is it going to be stowed away from the coastal region and not on the tidal flat, and how do we avoid potential dragging and gouging during the cyclical removal and installation?
So they are going to remove it during high tide, and they're not going to store it in the coastal resource areas. The only permanent part is the granite block.
Okay.
That was the question that I had as well. We have a similar situation, and we can pull our gangway up onto a permanent dock. They're very, very heavy, those metal gangways. And I was wondering where they were going to put it when they're pulling it out of the water. That's not obvious. So that doesn't show on the plan.
It's usually a contractor's obligation. Is that your intention in this case? Do you know?
Yes. So there is a float company that's going to be installing it and helping to maintain it when it's not in the water.
So
Yeah, we have,
condition can
just-
be that it's not on site. Is what- yeah.
right. We have in the past stipulated that some areas are inappropriate for the storage of seasonal floats and ramps. So most of them end up in the inner harbor, as you probably noticed in the wintertime. Mark, your hand is up. What's up?
You had someone had mentioned that whether they have gone to the zoning board for this. It doesn't require going to the zoning board, but it probably requires going to the planning board for a special permit for work within the intertidal zone. So I'd have to talk to the applicant or Jordan at some point about that. So.
Thank you. That's we didn't know that. I had a question just about the geometry. The Marine Fisheries assumes that this will be 32 inches offset by the standoffs that are under the 6x6s that are underneath it. But it looks from the side view as the 32 inches includes the width of the float itself, which leads me to wonder, will the ramp actually be above the mud flats itself for its entire run? You know, the flat is the grade is very slight as you head out into the marsh and the mud flat. Does anybody check that?
Here, I can zoom in on the detail. The ramp portion of it is not proposed to touch the mud flat at all in this image here. Can you see the detail?
Yep.
It's
So
like
it actually will be
all the way in the air, and then when the water rises, it will rise with the wooden float.
good. All right.
We, could I have a question?
Okay.
Regarding the standoffs and the expectation that they're going to hold it off of the mud flat. Mud flats tend to be squishy, to say the least. And I would imagine this could easily sink pretty far down into the mud flat. What is there to prevent that? It's not, it's floating. It must be floating some of the time. It's not a permanent, it's permanently held there. It's floating at high tide and settles to the bottom at low tide. Is the way it looks. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
And 6 inches by 6 inches, what is to prevent those standoffs from just sinking down into the mud flat? The one that we have, if you did that, it would the soil composition is such that it would just burrow right into it. It's squishy.
So you're concerned that the float might rest on the mud flat?
Yes.
And the standoff.
I don't think it's the idea that it's going to stay 32 inches off the bottom. I just don't know. It depends on the composition of the soil below it. And if it's what it is in the inner harbor, it certainly won't.
So the standoffs are attached to the float, and so when it rises, they'll rise with the float, and then when it goes down, it will go down with the float.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think it might burrow into the mud flat. The stands, when they just resting on that, it's not soil, it's mud.
Yeah, depending on how much sediment.
Yeah, I mean, the soil off of our dock is referred to as puppy poop. So inconsistency, technical term.
Yeah, in the past we've seen designs that use essentially skids that provide more surface area. Therefore, there's more impact to the mud flat, but less likelihood that the entire structure will end up resting in the mud. Henry?
So Marty raises a great point about the downward force pushing the float into the muck. And I have the exact opposite question, which is I would really like to see the force calculations for the flotation to raise this thing out of the muck with the weight of the dock plus the ramp pushing downwards on it. How do we know that the tide is actually going to lift this thing out of the mud?
So it was constructed by a float company, so this would be their specialty.
yeah.
I'll try to find the name of them. It's Ramsey Marine and Dock. So they specialize in constructing docks that would be sufficient in this location.
There are a couple of other structures. I think there's one next door that Colby West has. And then there's some, around in Days Creek that probably have similar conditions they're grappling with. But I don't think of ramps of this size. This is a sizable, 60 feet is a big ramp. David?
Well, in light of what Mark told us, that this may need approval from another committee, did you say the planning board, Mark?
That's correct. Yes.
We're usually the last committee that designates our blessings and approval. I would think that we should defer any decision until the planning board approves this.
Yeah, I would agree with David.
Well, there's no necessarily right or wrong process for an applicant to go through. There's no one that has to go first. So it's kind of their choice. I believe that they probably didn't know they needed to file with the planning board as well. The other thing is, as far as the floats go, I live right off the Annisquam here, and a lot of the floats, particularly some built by Ramsey, and maybe it's not shown if you put that detail up between those posts that stick down. Usually they use those big plastic. They look like big, like recycling. Yeah, big bins that lift the float, and then they also sit on the mud as well, except they're not really shown what flotation they're using here. Most floats don't use the old styrofoam anymore. So that's I'm wondering whether they're missing some detail to this, because it was probably meant to be less of a construction drawing and more for
Yeah. A direct impact on the wetland.
Right, yeah.
Well, the other advantage of continuing, if the applicant's willing, is that we could get, direct answer from the contractor with their experience in this as to how this is going to function, whether the dynamics of the weight of the ramp and the weight of the float are going to push down those standoffs, or whether the standoffs will resist the weights. Commission seems inclined to continue. Is that my sense?
Yes, for sure.
Jim, do you have a comment about that or other? You're muted. You're still muted.
Sorry about that. So if we're not talking about just, 1.5 feet of things touching the mud flat, and we're actually talking about a bunch of bins touching the mud flat and maybe a boat touching the mud flat, I just feel like in prior situations we've asked for a little more offsetting, and I just think maybe beach cleanup is great, but so is planting eelgrass and some other alternative offsets. So maybe that's something to think about.
Yes, I agree. Second that heartily.
Yep.
Mitigation generally is a requirement of our bylaw at a 2-to-1 ratio. There's only a small impact on the bank from the granite block, but there could be a small amount of mitigation, converting some lawn to native plantings that go to their desired height instead of being mowed. So that's another issue to take up for the applicant to take up if we continue. Before we move to that, is there any comment from the public on 19 Proctor Street, the ramp and float? I am
Yeah,
not seeing
Sandy
any.
R has Sandy's hand up.
Yeah, Sandy, please identify yourself and tell us what's on your mind.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Sandy Rogers, 82 Old Essex Road. I just have a question. My understanding in some communities that a certain distance from a property becomes a public way. And are these mud flat areas where there is a suggestion to build something actually public versus private? I could not tell from the drawing. Thank you.
I can't begin to answer that question. Does anyone on the commission know? I know I blunted my sword trying to answer it when Crocker was proposing going out considerably further from shore.
I can answer generally, maybe not in this specific case, but generally property owners own to the low tide mark and the intertidal zone is available to fish, fowl, and shellfish, but it doesn't prevent the installation of docks and other types of the homeowner from doing things. So provided they get the right permissions. So.
Yeah. So in a mud flat, that's quite an expanse.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what made it a little confusing regarding what approvals need to come from town and/or town residents.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks for the question. Anyone else in the public? So I'm going to ask the applicant, you have any objection to continuing this to July 21 meeting, at which point you can bring us a little more detail on how the float is going to be prevented from sinking into the mud, and perhaps a suggestion about some small mitigation efforts.
Yes, we would like to continue.
Okay. I'll move that. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Gordon?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Martha?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
I think that's 6, and I'll be an aye as well. Thank you.
It's July
Jordan?
21st meeting.
July 1st, 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Have a good night.
May I ask Jordan?
Yep.
Would you be sure that the weight of the gangway is included in whatever is produced here? Because that gangway pressing against a float, I know that these are experts who do this, but that much weight, those things are incredibly heavy, and it's going to tilt the float. I don't trust that drawing. So I'd like to see more of the engineering of that, because.
Yes, we can provide that information.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
question.
you.
Thank you. Thanks, Marty. Next is a notice of intent from 5 Kings Way, Ryan McShera. It does not yet have a Mass DEP number. And under those conditions, we can open the hearing, but we will have to continue it to the July 21st meeting. Is there someone here tonight on behalf of 5 Kingsway?
He's raising his hand, Ryan.
There you are. Yeah. Let's unmute Ryan and can you hear me?
Hi,
There you are.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ryan McSherra from Red Barn Architecture here, here to represent the project at number 5 Kings Way. Yes, we are still waiting on a notice of intent number from the DEP, so I understand that this one we can open, but will be continued, but would be interested in starting the process and getting to understand the commission's concerns, questions, and comments they might have about the project so we can craft this in a way that works for everybody.
Go ahead. Sounds right.
Excellent. So to give folks a little bit of background, I was in front of the commission at the beginning of June for a pre-application meeting just to go over the parameters of the project. I'll review it quickly for everybody, but we are proposing to build a new single-family home at the top of the hill at number 5 Kings Way. We have a shared common drive that goes along Kings Way. If you've been down the road before, the bridge is back here, farther to the south. Summer Street is even farther to the south off of Plan Left.
Excuse me, Ryan, are you trying to share your screen?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was, yes.
We can't see it.
Or
I can see it, yeah.
better if I actually share it. Thank you. Better?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Much.
thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate the heads up before I got too much farther. All right. So we are proposing to build a new single-family home at the top of number 5 Kings Way, which is this parcel in the drawing. And we have a shared common drive with number 1 and number 3 Kings Way, which are farther to the north here of us. And then, as I was saying, if you've been down the street before, there is a metal grate bridge a little bit to the south of us, and then Summer Street is even farther to the south off Plan Left. So the project or the parcels themselves have been in front of the Conservation Commission several times over the past almost 10 years. The most recent activity was from, well, not the most recent activity, but one of the first elements to this project was the 2019 application, which extended the subdivision and extended Kings Way through the bordering vegetated wetland and over to where number 1 and number 3 were built. Number 1 and number 3 were built in the past 5 years, in 2021 and 2023. But that work in the 2019 NOI, again, completed the road and brought the utilities across the bordering vegetated wetland to where the power utility currently is. So we have bordering vegetated wetland here as delineated by the 2019 application. And we've got an existing transformer location here. And we need to get power from this transformer location back through the driveway, underneath the driveway, across the bordering vegetated wetland, to the south where it will turn and sweep onto our property. We will have a manhole cover here right at the end of our driveway, right before it meets the shared common driveway. And then the utility will continue on to our parcel and up along the driveway until it continues out of the buffer zones and up to the house proper. So with this application, we also wanted to note that the project was in front of you in about March of 2021. That was when the previous owners got approval from your board via a request for determination of applicability. Excuse me, they got a negative determination to actually construct the lower portion of the driveway that is within the buffer zone. And so right now what is built out there is a dirt access road. So as part of this project, we'll also be finishing that road, adding pavement and thinking about some drainage structures to help mitigate any stormwater runoff coming down the hill. Let's see. So in reviewing the project and our first application here in front of you all, we understood that we would need a notice of intent, but we weren't sure if we were available to apply for a limited project. After further review of the bylaw, I believe, and the DEP rules and regs, I believe we are able to apply for a limited project. So I'm going to be revising the application for you all in that manner. but open to talking about sort of how we're getting power from here across the bordering vegetated wetland over to our property. Because work is being done within the bordering vegetated wetland, we will also need a waiver from the local bylaw from you all as part of this process. Open to answering any questions about how we're getting our power across the bordering vegetated wetland over onto our site. We've provided a little bit of alternatives analysis in our application. You can see that the grades are unusually steep on this side of our property, making passage over this way nearly impossible. We also have to remain within a utility easement that is granted to us by the owners of number 1 Kingsway. And then we also looked into pulling power from Summer Street, but that also requires us to go over a bordering vegetated wetland. It's more than 2,000 feet to the next transformer out on Summer Street, and is technically infeasible to go either of those routes. So we believe that this is the best path up the existing paved driveway and onto our property. So with that said, I will leave it to the board for questions, comments, and anything I can answer for you all.
Thank you. That's helpful, Ryan. Questions or comments from the commission? And let me know if you feel, as I do, that a site visit, we might benefit from a site visit here.
Yeah. I had a question, Steve. Ryan, can you clarify what part of that shaded driveway is currently paved and what's planned to be new?
Absolutely. Yep. So the current existing pavement comes to a line here.
Okay.
And then what is down on this portion of the existing driveway is only binder coat. So the finish coat was never placed on this portion of the driveway with the last set of work that was done here. So we would also like to place the finish coat onto the driveway as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? Marty?
The language in this says the trench will continue along the shared common driveway to the south, pass over the bordering vegetated wetland, where it will then turn onto the driveway for Kingsway. And I don't understand what is the mechanism or the mechanics of passing over the wetland. How do you do that? With what?
Yep, sure. So maybe a different use of language here would help, but we are using a trench to come through the bordering vegetated wetland here. Here is our wetland line, as well as our buffer offsets. So the existing transformer is here. We provided a trench detail as part of the drawings, but the trench will come along the edge of the driveway here, through the wetland, and then up onto our property.
So passing over means actually digging through.
Digging through, sure. Yep.
That's different. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Marty. That's helpful too. Other questions or comments from the commissioners? What's your thought about a site walk for this one?
Yes.
Yeah, probably helpful,
Yeah.
Steve. Let's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should,
Well, since
should
we
we
have-
wait to the DEP number and all that? Is it?
Yep. Well, we can take advantage of the delay actually to not slowing down the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Ryan,
move then. We continue 5 Kingsway.
So I
and
guess we should talk about.
schedule site visit time.
Yeah,
Sorry.
before you do that, let me just check to see if there's any public comment
Oh.
on this now that's open. This is 5 Kings Way, trenching to extend power utilities.
I don't see anyone.
Nope, I don't see anyone. All right, go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, I'm going to move to continue 5 Kingsway. There's no DEP number at this time, and schedule a site visit as well.
The July 21st is
Continue to July 21st meeting.
Ryan, you okay with each of those?
I am absolutely okay with each of those approaches.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? David?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Arnold?
Aye.
Gordon?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And I'll make that unanimous. All right, let's pick a site visit time. This weekend is probably out,
Good.
Yeah.
all things considered.
We do Saturday the 11th. Does that sound good?
Saturday the 11th, working for the majority.
I can't do it then. But
Yes, it's good.
Would Sunday work better, Marty?
I'll be in Seattle that
Oh,
weekend.
okay. Okay.
Yep. I may be out of town as well, but Marty, you and I can do a separate sidewalk.
Yeah.
Steve,
Given
maybe
the
I'll
plans
go.
of urgency.
Yeah, I may go with you and Marty as well because 11th is not going to work.
Two of them. Okay.
So will the 11th work for Gordon, Jim, Henry?
It doesn't work for me.
Oh,
Well, I guess we
All
better
right,
pick
let's
another
try
day.
Steve,
try
let's
the
try the 18th.
Saturday the
Good with me.
18th.
Early.
Better? Yeah.
Afternoon?
Well, we generally try to
Early.
knock these off early-ish, like 8:30-ish.
I have another commitment that morning, but it doesn't have to be happening right at 8:30. But that's when it starts. So
All right. How does early Saturday fit with other schedules? Any objections? Ryan, can you swing that? We will need somebody there who knows the.
Saturday the 18th works for me.
Okay. And 8:30 is okay.
I like
Done.
earlier, but 8:30 is perfectly fine by me.
8 o'clock.
You mind? 8 o'clock? 800.
Yeah, whatever pleases the board, honestly, the commission, excuse me.
Got it. The 18th of July, 0800 hours. Somebody bring Duncan. Good.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you on the 18th, and I'll get more materials into the board as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Okay, at long last, we come around to the fifth notice of intent, which is 0 School Street from Jeff Engler on behalf of the property owner, Andrew Brown. We don't have a DEP number, or maybe we do. I just didn't at the time. No, not yet. So for that reason, among others, we'll be continuing tonight. But I have a few comments in advance just to set the stage. This is by my estimate, the largest project we've looked at. We've seen things on the commercial side like cell signaling, but this one, in terms of the wetland implications, is more complicated than that site. Bear in mind that we are, since it is a 40B project, we are reviewing it only under state law, Wetlands Protection Act, and any other relevant state law. And we, having said all that, we intend to be thorough given the size and complexity of it. It's a relatively large site that many are familiar with on the top of Shingle Hill, with some rather steep slopes on various sides and some wetland resources at the bottom of the slopes of various kinds. In terms of the history, we approved test pit excavations in 2020, I think, and then subsequently heard an ANRAD, a request for delineation of the resource areas, and issued an order approving those. It's called an ORAD in 2021, with various wetlands, but not all of them included in the ORAD. And the ORAD language reflected the fact that vernal pools in particular were not part of the delineation at that point. The applicant requested a renewal of the ORAD before it expired 3 years later, which we did in 2024. So it is in force until next year. And that simplifies the task as relates to the wetlands that are included in that order. Lastly, because of the audience, I want to remind everybody that this is the Conservation Commission, and our mandate is limited to protecting wetlands and the buffer zones around them, in this case, according to state law. And we don't have any dog in the hunt for public safety or traffic or schools or taxes generally. So while people may have opinions about those matters, they're not appropriate at this hearing. There will be time for public comment shortly, but what we intend to do to keep the process moving tonight, I'm just about done with this introduction. We'll ask the applicant to give us an overview of the project, as they typically do. There'll then be questions from the commission and probably some answers or some need for additional information from those. And then we will take a vote on utilizing one or more peer reviewers. And I'll explain that when we get to it. We'll discuss site visits, and then we'll open the hearing for public comment and questions. And in order to keep this moving, since we're already past 8 o'clock, we will be strict about the 2-minute limit. I apologize in advance if you feel offended when someone peremptorily mutes you, but we will warn you, and then if you're significantly in excess of 2 minutes, we will shut you off. That's all I have to say. Henry, anything else you want to say before we dive in?
Nope. That sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, so over to Mr. Engler, or your...
Sorry, Steve, did you want to?
Oh, yeah. So Scott Goddard is here representing the applicant. So if you could, I think I'm able to share a screen if that works for you guys all.
I think that's right. Gordon, did you have a process comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that because
I'm
recused myself, I'll just listen in as a member of the public for this section.
Yeah, Gordon has an interest in a property that is counted among the abutting properties, although it's some distance away, but it is technically abutting. And for that reason, he'll be recusing himself from this. I should say, while we're on that subject, each member of the commission has attempted to be scrupulous about actual or any appearance of conflict of interest that might create any apparent or actual bias. And to our knowledge, there are none. So that's out of the way. Fire away, Scott.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my name is Scott Goddard. I'm a professional wetland scientist, owner of Goddard Consulting. I've been in practice as a professional wetland scientist for 30 years in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, run a sizable consulting firm, and have been involved in the permitting of many thousands of sites in the state of Massachusetts. I'm here representing the applicants, which is SLV School Street LLC. That is the project team and applicant. The other member that's here with me tonight is Carlton Quinn, who's an engineer from Allen and Major Associates. So Carlton and myself will be the ones presenting and available for questions. So I have a short 10-slide presentation that I think we can have a fairly succinct presentation for you all to lay the stage for an ongoing conversation and all. All right. So Mr. Chairman gave an excellent summary of history. I won't belabor it. There's a couple of points worth highlighting from that. One is that the Order of Resource Area Delineation, or the ORAD, is currently valid and good till in May of 2027. And what that means as a practical matter is that we've exhausted the review of the accuracy of all the wetlands on the site. It's gone through extensive review, peer review, regulatory review, and has been affirmed by the appropriate issuing authority to say, yes, the wetlands are shown correctly on the site. So the boundaries of bordering vegetated wetlands, the boundaries of Sawmill Brook, the boundaries of isolated land subject to flooding, all of those goodies are established and not subject to further deliberation, debate, discussion. We can rely on those as it relates to this review. The comprehensive permit, which was issued, it was denied by the town and then approved under a fairly extensive appeal all the way through Essex Superior Court with the HAC, and the ultimate decision stands as a valid 40B project approved by the HAC, the Housing Appeals Committee. And what that does in effect is it grants a comprehensive permit that is inclusive of, to the extent that the Manchester by the Sea wetlands bylaw is applicable, the approval under that bylaw is captured within the approval by the HAC. So that leads us to the very reason why this application is uniquely and atypically being filed under only the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, which is the standard that we will discuss, the standard by which we'll have to limit our questions and dialogue to as we go through the process. So just a high-level overview. The site is not unfamiliar to most anyone in this conversation today, but it outlines the 23-acre parcel that is bounded by School Street and Route 128, and then the so-called Old School Street on the western side. The access to the property is going to be coming in off of School Street and entering that main central portion of the property on the northern part of the site. And that is the largest contiguous upland area on the property. All right. So this here shows the existing wetland resource areas on the site as a whole. The way that this plan is depicted, it splits the site into two halves. So the left side of your screen is the northern part of the site, and the right side of the screen is the southern half of the site. Everything that you see in sort of that lightish blue tealer color is bordering vegetated wetlands. BVW is regulated under the Mass Wetland Protection Act. The area that's shown in purple there to the north is Sawmill Brook and the mean annual high water of Sawmill Brook. Sawmill Brook is considered to be a perennial stream, and as a perennial stream, it has a riverfront area associated with it. We have also a couple of areas of isolated land subject to flooding, vernal pools, et cetera, like this that's surrounded the site, but those are going to be more off in the distance. These dark blue areas are vernal pool locations on the site. So I should point out that I mentioned Sawmill Brook. So it's the boundary of mean annual high water really is this pinkish line that goes out on the back. And then what happens is this pink line that comes onto the site that my cursor is following, that's the 200-foot riverfront area. All right. Here's the proposal. The proposal is a 3-story residential building that's about 92,000 square feet in size. It has 136 units residential proposed within it. There is access coming off of School Street, and that access is really what triggers the bulk of this jurisdiction. If there was a different access point that could have been less intrusive into buffer zones, we might have had even further reduction to work within the buffer zones, but as it stands, the work is fairly minimal within the buffer zones. When you look at the project in its totality, it's sitting on a hill in large part, right? So the top of the hill would be leveled, flattened to create the pad for the site, and then everything remaining around the perimeter is effectively the side slopes heading down to the wetlands to the north, to the south, off to the east toward the road, all drops down in grade. And if you look at the entry point right here along School Street, that's where we have a 2-lane driveway access, 1 lane coming in, there's a 4-foot landscape strip between, a 2nd lane coming out. We have a little bit of grading, and we also have a pump station. The pump station there is to allow the sewage from the development to properly enter into the municipal sewage system. The total amount of buffer zone work on the site, which again, fairly limited right in this zone, is measuring in at about 29,000 square feet. So, a little more than half an acre. When you consider the site in its totality, there's 253,000 square foot of buffer zone on the entire site, right? Because we're seeing the site being the development concentrated to the northern part of the site. Then that whole 13 acres on the southern side of the site is being left natural. And even within this part of the site that's being developed, much of the buffer zone is left intact. So our total impact to buffer zone on the subject site is 11% of alteration, meaning 89% is being left in its natural state. And the areas that we're doing work within the buffer zone is in the outermost parts of the buffer zone, so furthest away from the wetlands. So we're really not in any way in close proximity to the wetlands. Our nearest point is right in here at the access point, where we are about 45 feet away. And again, all this is driven by the need to get upland access into the site. We also have some work within the riverfront area. So again, this pink zone over here, pink line, is the 200 feet from Sawmill Brook. The riverfront area impact within Sawmill Brook as it relates to basically side slope grading is 4,318 square feet. So a very small amount of work within the riverfront area, that outermost part of the riverfront area, and it's under 5,000 square feet, which is under our allowable amount under the riverfront area impacts under the Mass Wetland Protection Act. There's an additional area, which is this shaded gray zone, of 18,000 and change square feet of work within the riverfront area that's attributable exclusively to the management of stormwater. That 18,000 square foot is exempt under the calculation for impacts to riverfront area under the regs. And the reason for that is that it's stormwater related, and we don't have reasonable alternatives to move that stormwater management elsewhere. And the reason for that is it requires grade, topography, and elevation to allow our stormwater infrastructure to sit in that proximity. So we've done everything possible to keep that as far out of riverfront area as possible, but it is exempt and allowed within that zone. All righty. Moving on, just now this is kind of a zoom out, right? Looking at the site in its totality, it shows you the context and the layout of the site development within the site overall. We're sitting on that northerly part within the largest contiguous upland area. The reason for this is to minimize anything that looks like wetland crossings, wetland impacts, and leave an intact zones for significant wildlife benefits and wetland contiguous habitat types. So This is a grading plan. It's a little bit detailed, probably not relevant to getting too far into the weeds on it, but what you can note as we look at if I zoom into this area of the grading plan, you can see the tightness of those topography lines, both up in the development area, in the stormwater area, in the existing conditions plan. And the tightness of those lines indicates the steepness of the slope. So that becomes the challenge on this site, is that we're dealing with a fairly aggressive slope over the entire site. So a lot of grading work, a lot of site work is needed. Retaining walls have been used to tighten the grades, pull the grades back. But so much of the design from a civil engineering perspective here is driven by elevations, by grading. So that shows you, I think, in a helpful way, some of the challenges that we're up against as it relates to grading. This is a slide that shows the stormwater management system and the deep sump catch basins, bioretention systems, all that good stuff. Now, remember this, we can get into this and I could have Carlton present this to you in detail if the commission would like. You can see we have infiltration basins over here. We have, a whole number of fairly intricate stormwater management systems. This has been thoroughly peer reviewed already at the ZBA process that's gone through third-party experts, and this has had a substantially rigorous review of the stormwater system. Carlton, do you want to give a high-level view of how the stormwater is being managed on the site? It could be helpful if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I have a few notes I'd like to go through, and I have a couple of slides of my own if I could share.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'll stop my sharing and turn that over to you.
Good evening. My name's Carlton Quinn, principal at Allen & Major Associates. We were responsible for the land survey and civil engineering on this project. Scott has touched on a number of points. I might go through them again, but I will be certainly quick and just get through them quickly. You can see this is the site here. We're dealing with significant topo. The site's predominantly wooded with some areas of ledge outcrops. This is the north side and the south side, which Scott has already gone over. You can see our development up here and the size of the site up here. I put this quick exhibit together to show this green line is the extent of our disturbance, where the grading would end, kind of our erosion control line. This represents about 8 acres. That is only about a third or 34% of the site, which means 2/3 or 66% of the site is going to remain undisturbed as part of this project. And we did minimize the disturbance to the maximum extent practicable. Here is a little zoom in on the frontage. You can see we have a BVW here and a BVW and a vernal pool here. And this is our roadway here. And we couldn't slide it any further south because there's a driveway here and it would conflict with some turning radiuses. And there were some topo issues with it going south. So it's kind of in the middle of both of these BVWs to try to minimize the disturbance. But you can see the whole frontage here is within buffer zones from across the street and the two wetlands to the side of it. So there really is no other alternative on the site to get access, without crossing a BVW or creating extensively more disturbance. You can also see here, I highlighted in blue the areas of impervious surface within the WP jurisdiction. You can see there's about 2,000 square feet here as part of the entrance, and then another 1,500 square feet here. So that's about 3,500 square feet of impervious, and that adds up to about 1/4% of the impervious of the whole site is within these buffer areas, and that's just going to show you that we did try to minimize this to the maximum extent practicable to any disturbance around the site. The stormwater locations here, not only set, I think Scott made a good point, by elevation, location, they're also set in the areas of good soils where infiltration can take place because there are significant areas of ledge here. So this area was a good soil over here, and this area over here was good soil here, and it's just downstream of the roadway here. Once you get further towards the roadway, the soils were very bad. So there really was no other location to put these stormwater systems. I did mention we did test pits. Those test pits were witnessed by a Mass DEP hydrologist, as those test pits were originally proposed for a leaching field for a wastewater treatment plant, which we had a lot of pushback on in the ZBA process. So we switched from kind of an on-site wastewater process to pumping the sewage off-site, which I think is a benefit in whole to the wetlands, removing that leaching from on-site. So there are a couple of areas on the site which have vernal pools. There is a cold water fishery to the north of us. And the BMPs we chose on this site are the ones that are recommended per the DEP. I just wanted to pull up these tables here on best management practice for cold water fisheries. These are exactly the structures we use for pre-treatment. We did deep sump catch basins, the proprietary separators. We have a filtering bioretention up at the front where we don't have great soils. And we used infiltration basins, subsurface structures, and an exfiltration bioretention. So you can see this is exactly the type of stormwater BMP that the DEP is looking for in these areas. And similarly with the vernal pool, discharged near outstanding resources, including vernal pools, it's deep sump catch basins, proprietary separators, bioretention areas, and infiltration basins. Highly recommended. So these are the type of systems they want to see in these areas. And that's how the site was designed with these in mind, just to be respectful of both the vernal pool and the cold water fishery. As part of the peer review process, it was determined, the project exceeds all the minimum standards for the Mass DEP handbook. I also wanted to note the rainfall. The rainfall events here, we were requested to use the Cornell extreme precipitation rates. And you can see here, the 100-year storm is at 8.8 inches. The standard Mass DEP NOAA Atlas now is at 8 inches. So we're 10% above the rainfall data used per Mass DEP recommendations, which should show the site has thought about some climate resiliency. Those are all the notes I got, and I'll pass it back over to Scott. Thanks.
No, Carlton, that was excellent. I think that pretty much wraps up the presentation of the project to get this going. We clearly don't have a DEP file number, as the chairman stated. There's going to be a fair bit of input from the abutters or the public, which is appropriate and fine. And we're here to start addressing questions as we work toward seeking an order of conditions. So we'll turn it back to the members of the commission to advance this conversation.
Steve, you're muted right now.
Good catch. Train's going fast. Thank you, Carlton. Thank you, Scott. It's a good way to start. Next, we will survey the commission for questions.
Yes, I have a couple.
Go ahead, Henry.
So I guess probably for Scott, I'm curious about, I was around for the 2021, 2022 plans. Have there been significant changes in the current plan from the 2021, 22?
You're asking if the design of what's proposed here was what was conceptualized several years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, Colin can probably answer that better. Big picture, this plan has been what's been around. I mean, there's been tweaks and all, but we haven't moved too far off the original proposition. Carlton, do you have any more sort of minutia details about if we've made movements on this design?
No, we have not. You'll see the revision date on the plans. Revision date C is May 25th, 2022. That was the last set of plans that was issued for the ZBA, and I think it's referenced in the HAC determination that that's the set of record. And I did update them. The only reason I updated them was to update the buffers to show the buffers for the WPA, because as we went through the ZBA process, we were adding buffers for this and that, as part of the local review process. And the only thing that really got updated on those plans is the buffer, the illustration of the buffers.
Okay. That sounds good. And you talked about, what's going to effectively be the flattening of the hill. Do you have any numbers for us on the extent of cut and fill? How long that's going to take and how that's integrated into the project from, I guess, from the first road being put in through the building site?
I think that's all part of the public record from the ZBA process. I can dig that up for you. I want to say the cut and fill was maybe 100,000 cubic yards, and I'm going off of memory here, so please just take that. But I believe we have a letter that we can probably forward you from the ZBA process with I think it had truckloads and timing and that on it, but I'd have to double check.
Yeah, that'd be helpful if you could forward that. And I will move to either Arnold or Marty.
Well, I'll ask. I recognize that you're not just removing rock, 100,000 cubic yards of rock, but you'll be removing a lot of trees and tree material. Do you have an estimate of how many trees will be taken down, and some way of estimating the volume of that material?
Is a good question. Is the question targeted specifically to trees within the buffer zone, the riverfront area? How are you defining a tree? What can you give me a little more flavor to your question, please?
Well, in order to put this in, you're going to have to take off the top of a mountain, basically,
Yes.
or top of a hill, and it's completely covered in trees right now.
Yes.
So that's a lot of material to come down in addition to the 100,000 cubic yards of rock. So I just thought that it adds up to a lot there too, a lot more material.
Right. Well, the trees that are outside of the buffer zone and riverfront area aren't something that we are rarely able to speak to in this meeting, but we can review in the field and discuss the trees that are present within the riverfront and or the buffer zone that are going to come down. I don't have quantities for you, but that could be a discussion topic if it's something the commission would like to see more information about.
Yeah, I have also a question regarding the east side of the area. The retaining walls are in multiple areas, but on the east side, there is a section where there's not a retaining wall, and the vernal pool is just downhill from that. And I wondered why there isn't any retaining wall there.
Carlton, could you reshare your screen and zoom into that portion of the site that
Yeah,
Martha is referring to?
So it would be here.
Yes, the retaining wall, there's a gap in the retaining wall just to the right of the dotted line. So within it's to put it in the retaining wall there, you'd be doing more encroachment in that area, I guess. But I'm surprised there's not one to protect the
It's actually
vernal
that's a fairly easy question to show you because the cut here falls along the 120 line, and the elevation here is about 120. So we don't need a retaining wall here. It's at grade, I think is why that's there. It's not physically needed. That's why there's a break in the retaining wall.
Okay. So the wall is not going to protect anything. The retaining walls protect material from flowing downhill. So the fact that it's at grade, maybe I just don't understand how you get protection in that space from anything from that road going just right over the edge.
Well, I mean, if there was a road or something down there, we might put up a fence or a guardrail. I mean, we'll have a fence and a guardrail up there actually anyway. There is fall protection for humans not to fall down. But we're not proposing any barriers for rocks or anything falling down.
Let me provide a little context also for Martha's question as well as Henry's about cut and fill, which is a concern which you can help us figure out and resolve, that the process of preparing the site for construction is going to involve a lot of demolition of material, trees as well as rocks, and removal of some of it. I'm assuming only a fraction can be reused on site for grading. But we'd love to see the specifics on that. And the reason is that temporary disturbance, I assume, will be before the more substantial drainage systems and stormwater management facilities are built. So the temporary impact may pose a particular threat to the wetlands under our jurisdiction. And we just need to understand that, see if, in fact, there is no concern there or whether there might be a significant concern.
Are you talking like an erosion control barrier to protect the wetlands, or is something more substantial?
Well, given the magnitude of 100,000 cubic yards and a lot of wood cutting and the grades you're dealing with, I guess that creates our interest in the sequence of construction, how material will be removed from site before the driveway is finished.
I don't disagree. It's certainly going to be a complicated process to move that material off the site, but I think you would absolutely need a site contractor to provide input on their means and methods, and we're probably years away from that at this point. Is that something that could be conditioned, as that would be brought in front of you before it?
Yeah, once we understand it, magnitudes, duration, types of construction activity, even if you can't provide specific sequence, which I understand, we need enough information in order to gauge that degree of temporary impact and judge whether, conventional erosion controls are going to be sufficient to deal with that.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Arnold, your hand is up.
Yes, I'd like to, going back to Martha's question about the trees, just basically, I'm not sure if we ended up at a clear point regarding the estimates, but whatever information we could be provided regarding the total volume in cords or board feet, and if it means for the whole project versus also focused on the critical areas for wetland and vernal pool protection, and ideally some estimates for what is are we able to preserve a 50-foot buffer around vernal pools with an undisturbed forest strip?
I can't say we have a 100-foot buffer to the disturbance, I believe, around any vernal pool.
Yeah, that's a good point, Carlton. Yes, Arnold, there's no work within 50 feet to any vernal pools. In fact, to Carlton's point, there's no work within 100 feet to any vernal pools.
Oh, good, Arnold.
Yeah, we'll still like to go back to the estimates for how many the removal of how much removal of trees and cords or board feet, ideally. I'm not sure if it's already in the information provided.
That is certainly not in the information provided. No.
I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Arnold. Jim.
Thanks. Could you just go back and explain? I'm new to this project. The grade of this drive. What's the maximum and what's the average, or however you want to phrase it?
Yeah. So the average grade of the driveway is about 4.5%. Obviously, when we're building the driveway, we want to cut the least amount and fill the most amount to get it installed. Minimizing the disturbance. So there are areas where the center line of the road gets to about 7%. But this was all this was one of the main points of the denial by the ZBA. So this was thoroughly reviewed. But it's all within state fire regulations, and certainly I think it might even be below your subdivision regulations,
Yeah.
at about 7.5% max.
Okay. I mean, you may have to cover some old territory again. I apologize for that. But so when we're speaking about the water flows that you mentioned, the 100-year flood or the 8 inches, explain to me where that goes. So it's coming down a drive. When you get to that 4.5%, that water flows like a river and cause a lot of scoring. And so just explain where all this water is, once, I think Steve brought up a good point that, during construction, we won't have any of this mitigation, but when the project's done, just walk me through how this water doesn't end up just scoring and overflowing the system and ending up, in the resource.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So it flows down the gutter line, mostly in the driveway. It would get caught by a deep sump catch basin, right here, illustrated by this circle. It would be run through a water quality device, which is this one, to remove the sediment and get to our minimum 44% TSS removal requirement. It would then go on in a closed pipe system. It would then discharge to this bioretention swale, which would fill up and infiltrate the water, the required water quality volume, and the required recharge. And in 100-year storms, this would overflow in this 30-foot wide emergency overflow weir. We've provided a level landing here to reduce the velocities below the maximum velocities allowed within the Mass DEP stormwater regulation to prevent erosion and rutting down.
So stay on that point. How are you going to slow the velocity down on a driveway that's this long and steep?
The velocity, I'm speaking about the overflow weir, not the
Okay,
velocity in the gutter line.
because I see a lot of water not going into these
We did provide, I believe, gutter flow calculations in the drainage report, but I can that illustrate the overflow past the systems at certain rainfall events. It should be within the material, but I will double check that.
Okay.
You're talking about the gutter flow coming down the driveway.
Well,
bypassing
yeah,
the catch
it's picking
basins?
up everything off the roof and everything else and coming off the sides of these steep walls. It just seems like you're concentrating a lot of water that could be moving quite fast when you're dealing with 4.5 to 7% grade. And that can not end up where you want it to end up, but it can end up moving a lot of sediment to places where we don't want it to go. So that's, it doesn't go through the system because you can't capture it, if it's flowing fast. That's my concern. I'd like to see that analysis, even if I read through that drainage report and it's 400 pages and I couldn't find it.
should surprise you got through it. I'll
It
try
was
to
tough.
pick
It was tough. The coffee maker is still hot. So it's the slope, the water speed, the amount of volume that you're talking about. That's my concern. So a different element of water, just a different topic. So what happens to you said that you kind of looked at maybe some kind of on-site treatment, but you're now going to connect to the sewer. Explain how that works. I don't see that on the map. That's a separate process?
Yeah, so the connection from the site to the system will be a completely different project and a process that will probably be before you again. We are showing the collection system on site and the pump. So it would all be collected in a pipe system. It goes down the road. There are minimum and maximum slopes to these pipes that you're allowed to in a sewer situation. They all meet those. And then it goes into this pump station down here. And this pump station would then pump the sewage down the road on School Street to the existing main.
So you're going to have to go under 128?
we would have to go under 128. And that's all in the records too. We have a conceptual layout of how the sewer be laid out. I'm happy to provide that.
That's common to do that? Is that a drilling? I mean,
Yeah, it'd be a directional drilling. I mean, they can drill. They've drilled under the Connecticut River before, thousands of feet. It's a process they can do.
Ellen, is there a good reason not to bundle the wetland resource questions involving that part of the project with these?
I think it was a significant investment to do that where there's a lot of pieces on this that are still not closed out. And that will also involve the DOT, which really can't be started until the local process is finished.
So,
can you say a little more about that? Pieces that
the DOT generally
sorted out?
won't review a project unless you have your local entitlements because they want to make sure they're dealing with the final product.
Right, which in my mind is a stronger reason for combining all of the wetland impacts of this project, including the sewer extension. Why wouldn't you do that?
They're not going to do that. It's just a very expensive process to get through when they're not sure they have a project.
So,
All right.
in your drainage plan, another couple pages that it kind of struck my interest is the lighting plan, and you're going to have to light the whole driveway up. I assume these lights stay on all night, or
They would need to be on all night for security, certainly.
yeah, and for safety.
Yeah.
And the light you're using, it looks like they are dark sky compliant, and that's great. But it also it seemed like there are lights that light up a 15-foot square area, 20 feet up poles, and they light a 15 to 20-foot square area, and you've only got 14 poles, so you're not really lighting that much, which is maybe good if you're worried about the impact of lighting. But is that plan correct? The how much you're intending to light?
I can take a look and get back to you on the lighting plan.
Okay. Yeah, I just found that interesting that so just my last thing I wanted to see if you could address is that in the alternatives that you guys review, one of the issues with the water is that it's not just H2O, it's got all the surface water contamination, and a lot of your systems are set to slow the water down and to filter out sediment, but you can't filter out brake fluid and antifreeze and motor oil and transmission fluid. That stuff is going to make it through your filters, and that's what I'm most worried about. And it doesn't take very much to damage the surrounding wetlands. And so what I didn't see is an alternative that would say less parking, less cars, because you have a very high parking ratio for this development.
That's a great point, Jim. And I think, as part of this process, we did really think about that. And we're showing only 16 vehicle parking spots on the surface. The rest of them are all underneath the building, which will be captured in oil and grease traps and discharged to the sewer. None of that would be allowed to be discharged to the drainage system. So we really only have 16 parking stalls as part of this fairly large development that would have to be, cleaned and filtered prior to discharge.
And what about road salt? You'll probably have to use triple the normal amount for this drive. How does that end up? Pretty hard to filter out road salt.
But they'd have to use the triple amount.
Well, I'm just saying it's a steep drive. They'll salt it like crazy. So how does this salt that ends up in the water retention systems not end up in the vernal pools?
We're using a stormwater system that's allowed by Mass DEP and even recommended by DEP for drainage systems in these areas. Obviously, road salt is used all over the state. If there's a significant concern here that you'd like to condition, we could certainly review it.
Well, I think the salt is what's going to kill these vernal pools, and you can't filter it. So I'm struggling for what the answer there is, other than not use rock salt. That's one alternative. More sand, and use the more expensive calcium, magnesium type salts that they use in more environmentally sensitive areas. That's not what Manchester by the Sea uses, but I'm looking at the resource. I'm not, and the resource.
Understood. We are more than 100 feet away from all the vernal pools, and 6% of these storms are not going to have any outflow. It'll all be infiltrated.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's all I've got.
Marty and Arnold, let's see your hands. I just would like to get through all the commissioners once, if we could. So David, are you on with us?
Yes. Okay. My question, we've all touched on this. This is the central question that we're all asking, and that is, what specific actions are planned to assure us that the undeveloped portions of the parcel will be preserved?
There's no access to them. You'd have to cross you'd have to cross a vernal pool to get to them.
Carlton, that would be more credible if it weren't generally believed that no one would ever able to build something of this magnitude on that hill. But yet you are trying. So let me repeat David's question. Assume that impossible things can be proposed. How will you protect that land?
I mean, I think the safest answer to that right now is that there's no proposal for that land right now. Then we have to concentrate on the proposal that's before us. We don't have a proposal to put that land, change it in title fee or put it into a conservation restriction. There's just simply the proposal right now is for it to sit as open space. And I don't have any personal knowledge of more information beyond that, but I don't think we can review something that's speculative of the future. Carl, do you have any more information on it than that? Because I don't.
I don't. But there's no proposal that I'm aware of for that.
Right.
Well, we'd be curious whether there's any fundamental objection to it being perpetually preserved.
We can get back to you on that.
Good. Thank you. Henry, has everyone had a bite at the apple?
We have gotten through, and I mean, we'll probably talk more about vernal pools in greater detail. Is that something you want to do now or at another time?
Well, I'm just curious because I suspect that that's the biggest moving target in terms of wetland resources. And I wonder, has anything changed in terms of identification of potential vernal pools or certification of any pools since the ORAD issued?
During the ORAD process and subsequently during the ZBA review process, there was an expensive discussion about vernal pools, vernal pool habitat. We included in this notice of intent the vernal pool assessment that was done in, I think, 2022 during the ZBA process. So this was no small subject, even though it was, atypically outside of the purview of the Conservation Commission. That report is included in here for your review. Probably premature to discuss it in depth tonight, but we do identify where the vernal pools are present on site. And the critical thing under a Wetland Protection Act review application is it's actually going to be less of an issue during this project review than it was during the ZBA process. Because under your bylaw, it allowed for further review of adjacent areas to vernal pools than this does. So under the Wetland Protection Act, Vernal pools and vernal pool habitats are defined as the pool itself, plus areas within 100 feet of those vernal pools, insofar as those 100-foot areas are within themselves a resource area. So what we would otherwise call a buffer zone or upland area that's adjacent to a vernal pool under the Wetland Protection Act is not considered vernal pool habitat or significant to vernal pool habitat. So the review of vernal pool impacts as it relates to buffer zone, movement of species, all those good things, that took place during the ZBA process, but we did include the outcome of that review effort in this application for your benefit. But I don't think it's going to be a subject for substantial review during this project application.
All right.
I know
Yeah,
that sounds weird, but that's kind of what
No,
we're
I think we understand as you explained it, the difference between the Wetlands Protection Act treatment of vernal pools in terms of buffer zones and the more generous areas covered on our local bylaw. However, the certified vernal pool, it's treated under state law as an outstanding resource water. I think you've noted that elsewhere. And that, of course, leads to some specific standards, which would apply.
It does for sure, particularly as it relates to stormwater and such like that. But I believe Colton could speak to that our setbacks are, more of our stormwater systems are more than 100 feet away from the certified vernal pools.
That's great. And we'll want to look at the nature of those 100 feet more closely in terms of grade and overflow in major storm events and whatnot. But I'm sure we'll get to all of that. So Arnold or Marty, any further final pressing questions before we touch a couple of other subjects and open up for some public comment?
Just, if I may, just a quick, for Mr. Quinn, just a clarification about the impervious area. Could you please go over very quickly about the figures for the impervious area that is proposed in the project?
I did not really go into in depth on the impervious areas. I was just noting the minimal impervious areas that are within the buffers. It was just 3,500 square feet, and I believe the total impervious area on the site's it's just under 4 acres. So it ended up being, I think it was less than 0.25% of the impervious area on site is within the buffers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, if the commission has completed at least our initial questions, and thank you, Scott and Carlton, for handling them. It's our intent to propose an additional peer review of the stormwater management with a particular attention to the protection of outstanding resource water, including certified vernal pools, and there may in fact be some that are newly certified since the last habitat study, directly off-site, but within the zone where one might ask whether there's going to be any effect given the steepness of the hill. So what we need to do for that is first the formality of voting as a commission to propose peer reviewers, and then we have to bring you some candidates with their proposals of scope and expense and whatnot. I don't want to get the cart before the horse here, because we do not have as yet what we consider qualified peer reviewers with proposals in their hands, but we will shortly. So I think it's appropriate just that at this stage that the commission vote to authorize that process, and then we can proceed to the necessary next steps.
Steve, is there anything from Bethany to add to that, or can we go right to that vote, Bethany?
Yeah, any updates, Bethany?
I think you're muted, Bethany. better.
Steve covered it, that there's no qualified peer reviews yet.
Well, I think we're close to getting one
Yes.
clearly qualified proposal, which might be just in the next couple of days. But naturally, we'd like to have at least a couple in hand for comparison's sake.
Mr. Chairman, could you share who you've solicited proposals from?
Let me pass that over to Bethany. I know that we're awaiting
Yes.
Weston and Sampson's. Yeah.
Yes.
Proposal.
Hello, Scott. This is Bethany, the conservation agent in town. We haven't had any proposals submitted to us yet, but I've reached out to a ton. With VHB, sorry if I mispronounce anybody. Weston and Sampson, CDM Smith, Oxbow Associates, Espelion, just to name a few of who we reached out to.
Thank you.
Jim, you have a comment?
Yeah, so before any kind of vote, Steve, could you just walk through, so that the idea of getting a peer review is because we as a committee don't feel we have the qualifications to assess some of these issues. I get that, but what would be the timing and ballpark I mean, and the cost goes to the applicant? I mean, is that and we're
Yes.
that's generally how it works?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
It goes to
go ahead, Bethany.
a 53G account, which is specifically for a project, and then the applicant will pay the cost of the peer reviewer, but usually they give multiple options to the applicant and with like the cost and
Could you
proposals
give an
to pick
example
from.
of when we've done this before?
Well, when we rebuilt the elementary school a few years ago, there's Riverfront, Sawmill Brook again. There was BVW, and there was some isolated land subject to flooding right on the property and also abutting it. So the stormwater management design was complicated, and there were some factors that complicated it, just as there are in any proposal. So in that case, we really needed an expert, independent, third party.
But in that case, it was the taxpayers that paid for it, right?
Well, it was the applicant, yeah. I mean, the state funded a good fraction of the costs. I don't know when that kicked in, but yeah, yes, it was a public project. I'm sure we've had peer review of some of the more significant
cell signal.
projects. Yeah, cell signaling. We had peer review of the wetland delineation and the rain garden retention structure.
And other municipalities have done this similar process.
I think that's right, Bethany. I mean, you would have more experience than we do because you've worked in several.
Yes, Carlisle. I worked in Carlisle, and we've done a peer review with wetland delineation for a single family home even, but it was a larger single family home in an undeveloped area. So they peer reviewed the wetland delineation, which I went with, and they looked at the wetland flags for like 10 hours. Yes.
Sounds like fun. Does that answer your question,
I'm going
Jim?
to move, I think, then that the commission continues its search for a peer reviewer to work specifically on stormwater management with an additional focus on vernal pools.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Marty?
Aye.
Gordon?
Gordon's not voting.
Gordon's not voting. Thank you. Good point. Not participating. Must be getting late. Arnold?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Jim?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
Have I forgotten anybody? No, just me. I am an aye as well. Okay. We will
Steve,
also
may I
be.
ask one question? Sorry to to jump in. This is Carlton. The owner asked me to see if if Bethany would reach out to BSC Group also, just as they have known the site. But that was all he wanted me to know.
Any suggestions would be helpful, so I can reach out.
They had done the peer review in the ZBA process.
Okay.
Beals and Thomas, not
Yeah, sorry, it's Beals and Thomas, you said?
It was Beals and Thomas, yes.
Okay, good. We'll also be wanting to conduct a informative site walk at some stage. I don't think we're quite ready to do that yet. And in particular, if we can get a peer reviewer on board, it would be nice to include someone from that function. So that's a coming attraction. And I think some of us, at least, who participated in some of the earlier stuff, walked along with the ZBA when it did its site walk, and perhaps even with the Housing Appeals Committee. So at this point, I'd like to open it for brief questions or comments from the public. So if you could indicate, I see several hands already, indicate on Zoom would be best. It's easiest to sort. So we'll begin with Dan Hill. Can you unmute and identify yourself?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Dan Hill. I'm an attorney, and I represent the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust and have been representing the trust for probably over 5 or 6 years at this point in its review and scrutiny of the 136 unit project that's the subject of this NOI. I represented the trust in the zoning board proceedings as well as the Housing Appeals Committee proceedings, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that the environmental impacts wrought by this project was the subject of 3 intense hearings at the Housing Appeals Committee in 2024, where 8 witnesses testified and 76 exhibits were admitted into the evidence, most of which dealt with the environmental impacts of the project. Our clients retained several experts on these issues, including a stormwater engineer, hydrologist, wetland scientist, and I expect that we'll be doing the same as part of this process to inform this commission as to the impacts that are relevant to your review under the State Act. There are extensive wetland protection areas on this site, including BVW, isolated land subject to flooding, 6 certified vernal pools, and the Sawmill Brook, which is a outstanding resource water as a cold water fishery, as you know. Over 7 acres of the site will be clear cut. Nearly half of the vernal pool watershed will be paved over and rendered impervious. Our experts testified that the vernal pool impacts will be significant, that the project will suffer from unbalanced water budgets. A water budget is something that's required under the State Act. That was not done by the applicant to date, as far as we know. You should know that the site abuts a 1,600-acre wilderness area that's managed in part by the Manchester Essex Conservation Trust. This is the Manchester Essex Wilderness Conservation Area. The stream that converses it is Sawmill Brook. It's a certified state-designated cold water fish resource. The Division of Fishery and Wildlife has weighed in on the need to protect the Sawmill Brook given that special legal protection. The division has actually noted that this brook is extremely rare and has the unique status as the only potential sea-run brook trout habitat known on the North Shore. One of the concerns with this project's impact on the brook is temperature. Sawmill Brook, to maintain its integrity, must remain below 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Stormwater from solar heated impervious surfaces of the project can exceed 95 degrees, which would raise the temperature of the groundwater that feeds the brook.
Mr. Hill, be a good time to summarize for us.
Sure. I'll reserve substantive comment to later dates. I appreciate this is the opening night. I just wanted to give the commission a brief overview of the concerns that we have raised for the last 4 years, and will continue to raise during this process. Thank you for retaining peer reviewers. I'd be happy to provide the commission with our own suggestions of very well qualified experts on the issues of stormwater, vernal pools, and hydrology, which has not been mentioned, but we feel is as important as the other issues raised. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Any other members of the public have a question or a comment? I'm not seeing any.
SMC has a hand up, Steve. I don't.
SMC, please identify yourself.
Yes, SMC, would you
I
identify yourself?
Yes. My name's Sergeant Collier, and I live in Essex, and there are a number of farms that are not too far from there. My question is, we have the fortunate situation where we have bald eagles nesting on our property. And I'm wondering if there's been any sort of inventory on the, wildlife that's affected, not just simply in the vernal pools, but other things like bald eagles and other species.
I can answer that quickly, Mr. Chairman, if you would like, just very briefly. So again, Scott Goddard,
go ahead, Scott.
Wetland scientist. The site is not mapped by Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program for any known state listed or rare species. So that type of survey is not needed nor appropriate for this type of a project.
Okay,
And
so it's
in
not.
fact,
It hasn't been put under consideration or anything.
Well, I mean, Scott's being perhaps a little modest in that an extensive wildlife habitat survey was conducted by the applicant at our request and the ZBA's request back in 2021. So and I think it's part of the materials in the public record for our hearing tonight.
And that's a fair point, Mr. Chairman. That is included in the package. I was specifically referring to rare species when he was mentioning bald eagles and such. So yeah, but there is a habitat assessment included in the package, and that's available for public view.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Many of us have also been struck by the proximity of major areas that are designated as NHESP sites for the protection of rare and endangered species. So begging the question, was this site actually assessed? It is private property. It's not uncommon for those sites to not be assessed when public and conserved land does get assessed. Which is why we asked for the work done in 2021. Okay, other questions, comments? Curiously reticent audience. No, neither do I.
Okay.
Very well, then I'll hear a motion to continue with the applicant's consent to our July 21st meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All those in favor? Jim?
Aye.
Gordon? You can't vote. David?
Aye.
Thank you for the reminder. Arnold?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Henry?
Aye.
And the chair is an aye as well. Thank you all for a hopefully auspicious start to a complicated set of hearings.
Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Scott.
Mr. Chairman, what's the hearing date continuance again? Sorry.
July 21st, Tuesday, the 21st.
Thank you. And would you expect the topic of conversation there to be the acceptance of peer review?
that will certainly be one item. We'll try to get our thoughts together and maybe we can share them with you so we have some clarity about what we'd like to cover and you can contribute as well.
Great. Thank you. Have a good.
Good. Thank you. Well, that I think we'll close the public hearing at this point. We have voted orders of condition already for Proctor Street. Sorry, for Boardman, not Proctor Street. So we will take up minutes from our June 9th meeting and any other new business or updates. Let's start with the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the June 9th, 2026 minutes?
Yes, Steve, I noticed a few things.
Yes, go ahead.
There was one spot where Marty was referred to as he. I don't have the exact spot, but we should correct that.
Yep.
Wouldn't be the first
in other
time.
spots it was correct, but it was yeah. And then I had noticed, I think there was a lot of reference to this other proposed large project. And I think it was referring to the wrong name of the developer there, and I like repeatedly, and I think we should correct that.
Okay, so it is in fact Jefferson, as in
Yeah.
Thomas Apartment Group.
Yeah.
Good.
So there's like a ton of references to the wrong developer, so we should just. Sorry, what's that, Bethany?
Reference JAG. I'm editing it
Okay.
to reference JAG.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. JAG
Those
will
are the
do.
two things I noted.
They use that as their abbreviation. All right. Can I hear a motion to accept those minutes as corrected?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thanks. All those in favor? Did we have full attendance at that, aside from Marty and Arnold? I think we did. So, David.
I was not there for that meeting. I did.
Oh, that's right.
You watched the
You were in the-
recording.
I did watch and I did read the minutes, and if that qualifies, I would
believe it
vote.
does.
I would
Yes.
vote yes if it does qualify.
Thank you. Jim,
Yes, aye.
Henry,
Aye.
Gordon,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well. Under new business, we have a reference for a scoreboard installation.
Yeah, I have
Bethany, can you-
something to share.
Thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Now we can.
ma'am.
This is the scoreboard. I had to contact Cheryl because I think the athletic person that the person that originally contacted me is on summer vacation. So she sent things today for the scoreboard, and this is what the scoreboard would look like. And they are using the same footings or just replacing the footings that are already there. So this is what the scoreboard will look like, and here are the parameters. I know I can't turn it, but
Mhm.
just
It's all right. We
tilt
can
your
all lean.
head.
Yes, we're all doing it. And the intention here is to cover more sports than simply
Yes.
football. Good.
And then they showed like a little map, the new as close as possible to old spot. And here it is, as you see. It's near the Sawmill Brook, but it's just replacing the old one.
So the footings are intact,
There.
still there?
Mhm.
Yeah, good.
So I'll just a letter permit,
So
I think is
You do yeah, exactly. Anybody have an objection to a letter permit to let that go ahead?
No, sounds good.
Good.
Sounds good.
Any updates? We don't have to belabor these, but we had the trees in Powder House. Any progress on those? The examination of white and black beaches and traffic and parking and other things. Our friends, the Beavers? No. Gordon Woods and JAG, Jefferson Apartment Group, we will be hearing from them on July 21st.
21st. They're doing an informal presentation or formal presentation. It will be under new business. It's not a public hearing. It's just a presentation discussion.
And I believe it's going to be substantially the same, if not identical, to what they showed the select board last month.
Yes.
It's my intention to ask them whether we could rather promptly have a site walk so that we can get our bearings where this is on the ground that they're thinking of working. But other than that, I'm open to any other suggestions.
Mark, was there any
Let's talk about it at the next meeting is my suggestion.
Yes.
Bingo.
Yeah, I don't see any reason to rush these things along.
Okay. Finally, I'll just, on a personal note, my beloved dog, Rosie, we had to put down last week. And I mentioned it only because she had become a steady companion on Concom site visits. In fact, I sometimes caught her nibbling what we call hydric soil, which is soil that doesn't have any oxygen in it, but has a lot of organic material usually. Something to improve her digestion. So I've always called her the wetlands retriever, and I'm quite sad to announce her departure.
It was awesome, Steve. We're sad.
Yep.
We're very sad to hear that.
Henry, your guys are up to be the next wetland pointers retrievers. I guess they would haul the wetlands
Can't
somewhere.
get that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what they would do. They're up for it.
Good. Any other items not reasonably anticipated when we wrote the agenda?
No.
Good. We have managed to scare away most of the audience. Good work, everyone. And we're only, yep, Marty.
So one thing that didn't get mentioned when we were talking about the Shingle Hill is the snow removal. We have ice and that issue, but where does the snow go? So when we're doing the stormwater management, I'd like to have the snow removal management be included in that work, because it did not look like an adequate plan for the snow removal. 5 inches, we had that a lot this winter. We had a lot more than that. So
it is a problem every time there's close quarters, and these folks will have close quarters.
We can't deliberate at this time.
Yeah, no, but it's a useful process.
Add it to
all right.
Okay.
Well, Olga has retired, leaving us empty-handed for who's going to do the magic motion here. David, I think you. Oh, there it is.
Well, in that
Just
case,
impulsive.
I'll second it, Marty.
Seconded. Second that move.
Perfectly done. I'll ask for an acclamation. Any objections? Hearing none, we're done. Thank you.
Bye,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
See you on whenever that was, the 18th.
21.
21st.
No,
Well,
the
the
site
site-
visits
Gordon's
the
not
18th.
voting.
Oh, site
Yes.
visits.
Yeah.
Yes, good. Yes, that's right.
I'll send a reminder email. Don't
But
worry.
Steve, are you going to update us on this qualified peer review before then, or how does that work?
Yeah, we're going to circulate a list once we beat the bushes sufficiently to get some. This is not the most popular subject for peer reviewers to plunge into. They look at it as a tar baby of some kind. So I think that's why we're having some trouble getting a lot of volunteers, a lot of proposals. But Mark has managed to get a commitment from one firm, Weston and Sampson, which also did the peer review across the street for cell signaling for the planning board. So we know them, and Bethany has a line on several people who have not said no yet.
Yes. Good night, everybody.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.